All games are being played on Lenovo IdeaPad 330 laptop with throttle stop installed and enabled to prevent the laptop from slowing down when it heats up a little. With an Intel i3 5500 and Intel 620 graphics with 8GB dual-channel RAM, 4GB can be allocated to the integrated graphics. This computer can handle many modern games at lowest settings for the best frame rates and is a great setup if you decide to travel and want to bring your Steam library with you. It also has Bluetooth functionality built in, so you can sync up a mouse, video game controllers, and other wireless accessories. These are games that have arrived during or ported to 8th gen consoles. The cutoff is early 2013 for these titles, as some of these games on the list still push modern hardware. I'm Darien from Gaming Buzz, and this is 10 great AAA video games from recent times that can be played on modern low-end laptops, in no particular order. This here is one of my most favorite games of all time. It offers great gameplay and overall is a well-made reboot to an iconic series. This game offers probably the most satisfying bow and arrow action, even compared to the sequels. The graphics also look fairly nice on lowest, which you will definitely be wanting to run this at for the silkiest frame rate available. So don't expect to run this game at all the special hair physics turn on and be playable. Some of the settings can be moved up, like texture quality, shadows, and texture filtering with minimal impact, as long as you don't go too crazy with those. I originally played this game on a Lenovo G500 with an Intel Celeron from 2012 and integrated graphics with really good results back then when this game came out. It definitely is pretty friendly to your machine if you have realistic expectations. Some of the things to watch out for, though, is explosions and multiple enemies on screen, but that can be solved by keeping the resolution at the lowest 800 by 600, but it does have a form of anamorphic widescreen, so it prevents having black bars on the sides.
You got one of those bastards coming in! You get in there! Get on! Right, I'm moving! Over here! I need some fire in the courtyard! You're going down! I'm coming for you!
Doom 2016. This game is a little bit of a surprise, but also not really. This is another satisfying reboot game, if you don't notice the pattern. Doom 2016 is beautifully optimized, and since I can, and I will mention this game was released on Nintendo Switch, which shows this game is more than doable on low-power hardware, with the right tweaks out of the box. The game does slow down in high-intensity scenes, but it doesn't affect gameplay all too much, as long as you keep the settings at the lowest end. The game does look very blurry, but the design language of the game makes it very easy to know what is happening. This is an awesome game to get immersed into if you are on a trip and stuck in a motel with probably preference for a mouse and keyboard controls. It's not the prettiest game at the settings to get it to run smooth on the computer, but at least it's playable. If this was even 5 or 6 years ago, a laptop of this price couldn't imagine running a game of this graphical scale for a game released at the same time period. Man, technology definitely has gotten pretty nice. Wreckfest is definitely an interesting choice for this list. It is developed by Bugbear, who are responsible for the first 2 Flatout titles on PC, PS2, and Xbox. This game is kind of the spiritual successor without all the wacky minigames and ragdoll physics of the drivers when they have a really sudden stop from a crash. This game focuses on the same kind of carnage and demolition derbies, but it definitely doesn't have the same amount of charm, but at least the racing is very similar, as it's physics-based, and a lot of objects are placed about the track that can be smashed and spread everywhere, like fences and tire stacks. It's awesome to barrel through one of the stacks and watch them explode everywhere. This game does demand many things are cranked down to the lowest, including the resolution if you want to keep the frame rate around 30. Otherwise, if you have a controller hooked up, this game is really awesome. But be aware that the game doesn't support cloud saving on Steam, so you will be starting on a clean slate if you have been playing on a beefier rig. But hey, a speedrun of this game could be fun, I guess, since it provides fun challenges to do while racing, like getting a specific number of spinouts or wrecks during a tournament. This is definitely a pretty hefty game for this hardware. Monster Hunter World will leave the computer begging for some slack during heavy battles with a quest of 4 players at the lowest visual settings. It will be quite normal for the game to hover the mid-20s for its FPS and even go down into the teens. But if you can handle the game's fluctuating frame rate, this is a really awesome game to play on low-power hardware. The text does get really blurry and hard to read at playable resolutions, but if you have a good sense of language, you should be just fine. But this is talking about one of 2018's biggest and most action-packed games from Capcom. But remember, this game did not come out on anything but PC, PS4, Xbox One, so this could be the portable entry for you. If you're tired of the PSP, 3DS, and Switch style outings being the go-tos with the outdated design elements. The King of Fighters 14 is the latest installment in this series that has been around since 1994, and is really awesome. New characters, new stages, a new graphical style. It's got a lot going for it. SNK is really the leaders in fighting games, and that is not arguable. This game is not a hardware pusher by any means, but it doesn't mean you can crank everything up to the max and expect it to run at the almost necessary 60 frames per second that fighting games need. I recommend the lowest settings as the game does not even look that noticeably different. Wild. This is another one of those games that could really have made good strides on the Nintendo Switch, but it's not about that. This is a great game to be in a hotel room with friends and hook it up to the TV and just compete. Guilty Gear XRD Zerd, I don't know how to pronounce that last part, is another awesome fighting game on the list. I know, but it has a cool animation style. If you like anime and the lower frame rate style of anime, this game runs best at lowest settings like the rest, but the game has so much style and charm that it doesn't even matter. It's just recommended that you use a gamepad because the keyboard controls are a big mess. I have not much else to say about the game, other than it has lots of content. Racing games are really great. The Dirt franchise is really great, even though it had its identity crisis for a couple of entries without the Colin McRae name and his endorsement after his tragic death during a rally event in 2007. This guy was the best of the best in rally. He knew no limits. The Dirt series actually was Codemaster's transition from Colin McRae Rally, and the first two titles is called Colin McRae Dirt, but the second title was announced after his death, paying homage to him. But back to the game at hand. Dirt 4 has very huge cutbacks by default in the settings. It literally lets you use trees as 2D textures akin to what you would see in PS1 and Nintendo 64 games. But the texture used for the trees looks pretty good when you're flying down a winding dirt road at over 100 miles per hour at the edge of disaster. Also, this game has other game modes that can easily take up your time and are extremely fun, like the track-based rallycross, closed-circuit open-wheel dune buggy races, and even a fun little playground area to hone your skills and get a good feel of all the vehicles in the game. Either play this game with a controller or a wheel, but using a wheel with this low-powered laptop would probably break the universe because of the odd balance between a cheap laptop and an expensive controller rig. I'm not going to judge you, though. I'm probably going to do it for a laugh. Motocross games aren't what they used to be. Rainbow Studios is no longer on top of their game, but MX vs. ATV All Out was a good return to form. It's nowhere near as good as MX Unleashed from 2004. Now, that game had personality. This game, though, runs best on, you guessed it, low settings. Races in this game are a little rough, but the freestyle events run really smooth. You can get tons of hours alone just going around tracks to best your fastest lap times and honing your skills. Just don't expect the game to look too pretty since the resolution has a huge impact on performance. Farming Simulator 2017 is so relaxing. I chose to pick an older entry in the series because it's the only one I own. It's farming though. Buy fields, take care of livestock, buy equipment, sell your yields. It sounds boring, but the game is super immersive once you understand all the nuances. You can get lost for hours. Trust me. I have no interest in farming, but I have over dozens of hours on a 3DS version of Farming Simulator. This game is pretty well optimized and has the ability to run on even worse systems. This game doesn't need its graphics totally degraded, so it looks nice and plays well. Okay, I know. Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age is just a port of a 2006 PS2 game. I just kind of wanted to talk about it and the fact that the game had to be built from the ground up with new HD textures and code to allow the game to run at a 60 frames per second mode, not on this laptop, without breaking things since the original ran on a 30 FPS refresh timing. This game really lags hard when it's set on higher than the lowest settings, but honestly, I don't see huge noticeable differences in graphical quality, but then again, the game was designed originally around the low resolution of 480i, so you can definitely lower the resolution, and the game will still look great. This is my favorite Final Fantasy. The mature themes, the great characters and the interactions with one another, the battle system is just right, the stylization of the world, and the character just hits the spot.
Yeah.
You cannot have this.
What do you think of my list? Is there anything you'd like to see run on this laptop? I'm open for suggestions. Leave a comment, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss out on any of the notifications. We also have an Instagram and a Discord. If you'd like to support the show, we have a shop and a Patreon. All links are in the description below.